I was afraid to admit out loud that I thought that I had what it took to be a pro athlete. And that held me back as well. Because if I can't really admit that, then
nobody else is
going to see it. And so I think a lot of people, even in my circle, that would have supported me and been like, yeah, dude, like, go after it. Like, you should. You've got some talent. They didn't know that that was what I was after because I never said it out loud.
Speaking of working with companies, talk to me about your experience in working with companies as an elite athlete.
From like a sponsorship standpoint, I haven't always been the best. And I think it comes back to that imposter syndrome thing, but like advocating for myself and that sort of thing. I've gotten some lucky breaks in the past. When you and I first met, I was racing for the Sunto elite team, which, you know, at the time, I didn't quite understand like how good we had it on that team. Tristan, oh my gosh, he spoiled the heck out of us. And I did a post yesterday, kind of just like reminiscing about those camps. And
because we were in St. George together.
That's where we first met. It was like 2 weeks before COVID.
That was like the week of. I was like, should we be hugging here?
Yeah, I traveled so much the several months leading into COVID, and I got pretty sick like that January or February, and I'm like. Part of me is like, I probably had COVID in like January, February, because up until this.
But that was March.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I got COVID kind of before we really knew what COVID was. Maybe, I don't know, or maybe I just had a cold. But
man, cold is quite an affliction.
Yeah, especially when you're an endurance. You get real whiny as an endurance athlete. And you're like, man, I want to just feel good. We don't like not feeling good. Anyway, yeah, we met. You know, at one of those camps. At the time, it transitioned to Sunto being the title sponsor, but I was on that team for 3 or 4 years. And that was kind of my first dip into having any sort of sponsors. And Tristan spoiled us so much. And the things he did for that team were incredible. So I think I got a little bit jaded as far as like kind of what to expect. And that one was just like right time meeting Tristan, and it just like happened so easily. So that's kind of where I say I got a little bit jaded of how easy the process is of having those conversations and pitching yourself and advocating for yourself and trying to get sponsors. Because since then, like I've picked up some product sponsors, but I'm actually kind of like just now having some of my first conversations around actual like pro contract sponsors. But prior to this, it's all kind of been in that like ambassador realm, or people kind of being willing to send some products, but you know, nothing from a financial standpoint. And I'm bad at asking for money. So I'm just like, oh, okay, some shoes, that works great. Because I don't know, maybe it's like the Midwest in me or something like that. I'm just like, well, I appreciate it. That's nice of you to offer. I'm not going to turn it down. But yeah, just now kind of getting into those first few conversations around like a true pro financial contract, which is exciting.
I think that the pendulum is swinging back towards performance and performance driving, right? Because there is such a difference between creators and elite athletes. And some elite athletes are great creators, and some creators are higher end athletes. And then you have like the Rory Linkletters and the Ali Ostranders of the world who are both.
Yeah.
You should check out their YouTube channels because they're fantastic.
I started watching Allie's, I don't know, I think is maybe influenced by something you posted or something. I don't know. I watched a few of them with her and her coach, which I think is also your coach, doing some training. And yeah, she does a great job.
Yeah, and so she was working with Normal prior, and now she's with Wazelle. And Wazelle has historically focused a lot on the storytelling. And like I long for the days of like the Kate Graces and Kara with Wazelle, where it was like, elite athletes, elite storytelling. But anyway, with Ali on Wazelle, she has a lot of creative freedom to like create and do YouTube and things like that, which takes some pressure off of the performance side of things, which for someone like her probably enables her to actually perform better.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But anyway, where I was getting at is there's a seemingly increasing divide around brands investing in both elite performance and creators. And so I think, like I was saying, that pendulum is swinging back. Instead of brands wanting elite athletes to be creators as well, we're going to see more investment in elite athletes being elite athletes and letting somebody else tell that story. So how do you go about the pitching? I know there are a lot of people who are going to listen to this and they're like, I'm in that phase. I'm curious too. How do I do this?
Yeah.
what tangibly, and sometimes the best way to learn is like say yourself. So like, what are you doing? What are you focusing on in that process?
I would consider myself in that same boat the last few years where I would listen to podcasts or read articles about how athletes navigated into pro contracts from being seen as just kind of like a product support athlete. And so, I've learned a lot by listening to this similar type thing. And I think over this past year, there's certain results that maybe gave me a tiny bit more confidence. And there's people that I've met over the last year that have really supported me and given me the confidence, kind of like telling me that, the things I'm doing running are things that are capable of getting a pro contract. That's really huge to have those kind of people in your life. So I would say the very first thing is, if you don't have those types of people in your life, they're huge, and trying to find people that can lift you up. And maybe you already have those people, but you haven't had the conversations around it because it's scary to say those things out loud. For a long time, I think that was a big part of it too, was I was afraid to admit out loud that I thought that I had what it took to be a pro athlete. And that held me back as well. Because if I can't really admit that, then
nobody else is going
to see it. And so I think a lot of people, even in my circle, that would have supported me and been like, yeah, dude, like, go after it. Like, you should. You've got some talent. They didn't know that was what I was after because I never said it out loud. So I think the first step is kind of like starting to say it out loud to some friends and not being scared that they're going to tell me I'm stupid or like, who do you think you are? Like, being a pro athlete is not an easy thing. I think most people are kind of like, how come you don't have a pro contract yet or something like that, which gave me the confidence of like, I should start approaching these conversations a little bit more like that instead of just being like, hey, would you send me a free pair of sunglasses? So there's that part of it. And then this year, after like 100K nationals, I had a little bit more, self-esteem for a little bit there and just try to get out of my comfort zone and send some emails and start the conversation and be like, hey, this is what I'm looking for, and kind of state what I was looking for instead of just being like, hey, I'm a runner and I like your stuff. Because I think if you do that and you're just like, hey, I'm a runner and I like your stuff, they'll just send you some stuff. But you got to like state what you're after and send a ton of emails and not be afraid of either not hearing back ever or getting a no, because you're going to get a ton of those. I don't think, maybe the Courtney DeWalters of the world or the Jim Mullins of the world, they'll get approached by people or they'll maybe email somebody and they're like, how can we get you on board? Most of us, though, it's going to be, sending 100 emails and hoping for 1 or 2 replies. And hopefully one of those turns into a conversation.
I've had a lot of these conversations with athletes. Reed Burrows in particular comes to mind, and Reed and I had a conversation. Then he went out and he sent like 100 emails and he got like 10 responses and he got three sponsors out of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's unfortunately how sales works.
Yeah.
Like 100 outbound, 10% response, 3% close rate. Like, great.
It's a funny thought I had the other day where, I feel like in business or like in the sales world or whatever, people like to be like, hire athletes because they have proven that they're dedicated and they can move forward. And I never really understood that because I was like, well, honestly, to be an athlete sometimes, like, you get really tunnel vision and narrow-minded on something that you really, really love. So unless you really, really love selling whatever this company is going to sell, like, you might not actually be that creative an addition. But if you've managed to skirt towards this direction where you have to send 100 emails, hope for 10 responses, and hope that like 2 or 3 of those actually convert to some sort of contract, that I now kind of understand the parallels of like, that's pretty much like working, phones at a business trying to sell stuff, is like bunch of cold calling, a bunch of rejection, and hope that like 1 or 2 people are nice to you.
Yeah, that's exactly the sales funnel.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that process. I hate rejection, but I love getting a no because it's much more clarity than a nothing or a maybe.
Yeah.
Or like, let's keep this conversation going on the back burner kind of a thing.